And welcome everybody to the sports show with Sal and Josh. I am Josh, and as we can see, there is no Sal today. So this is a wonderful Saturday version of the sports show with Sal and Josh. Normally it's myself and my roommate and best friend Sal Josh. However, he had a little bit too much to drink last night, and therefore he is MIA in this wonderful Saturday edition of the sports show with Sal and me, Josh. So normally on the Saturday shows, we go over the majority of fantasy football for the upcoming week and sort of any football news that's coming up for tomorrow's games. And if there's some sort of pressing news in the other sports, we'll always cover them. But we're here every Saturday at 2:15, as you can see, whether we drink too much or not. At 2:15, somebody's going to be here. We're also live every Wednesday at 6:15, where we talk about the majority of the top four sports. And again, if anything is pressing in any of the other amateur sports, UFC, NASCAR, MLS, golf, tennis, whatever else there really is. We'll talk about that as well. But we normally cover the main four sports, and we are both from Boston, and we are broadcasting live in Boston. So we're normally talking Boston sports if we have the opportunity, but we'll talk national sports because we both know quite a bit, and here we are. Maybe best, yeah. Well, the big black cock works pretty well as the microphone, and then the ball sack right here normally works pretty well too. Yeah, strippers in the background. Instead of the background that we have right now is it's a copy of the transfer of Babe Ruth to the New York Yankees for money for, what was the name of that play again? The play is listed in there somewhere. I don't remember what it is, but it's $25,000. Sal drank too much last night, so Sal's not going to be here. The questions are pouring in through our chat room. But yeah, so Sal, yeah, you're telling me, pussy. You don't have to tell me. The cure for every hangover, as we're brought to you today, Dr. McGillicuddy's menthol mint schnapps. Always the cure for any hangover. So I don't have a hangover. I'm just, since we're doing this by myself, we might as well drink our faces off, right? Ooh, not cold enough. But it does take like a peppermint patty. Ice skating, as in figure skating, or as in hockey ice skating? Oh, yeah, clearly. I'm guessing if PC could chime in, it's probably going to be figure skating. Now, there are a few things that I need to... yes, figure. There are a few things that I need to get through, even though it's really just you and me, Lorenzo, in here, I think. I don't know if you want to hear the top 10 for fantasy football, but you're going to get it either way. Top 10 quarterbacks: Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, Tony Romo, Matt Stafford, Cam Newton, Matt Hasselbeck, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Eli Manning, and Tim Tebow. He's going to be coming in at the top 10 finally again this week after a couple off weeks. But I think that him playing against... I'm waiting. Okay, top 10 for this week, quarterbacks of how I see them. Tom Brady's going to come off number 1, playing against the terrible Indianapolis Colts team. Drew Brees is going to come in at number 2. Had a great week last week. He'll keep it going. Aaron Rodgers comes in at number 3. Oh, yes, this week, not past week. Last week was Brees, Brady, Fitzpatrick, Eli Manning, Vince Young, Matt Ryan, Matt Sanchez, Aaron Rodgers, Cam Newton, and Caleb Haney. Eli I put as number 9 this week. I feel like Victor Cruz has really proved himself recently, and hopefully Akeem Nicks will keep on getting more healthy, and will overall active quarterbacks. Yes, Tom Brady. The camera's over here. That's right. Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, Tony Romo, Matt Stafford, Cam Newton, Matt Hasselbeck, Ryan Fitzpatrick, then Eli Manning. Oh, last week. He came in at number 4 last week. Eli Manning came in at number 4. Or do you just mean overall for the entire year? Because overall for the entire year, give me just 1 second here. Eli Manning is at number 6. Eli Manning is number 6 for the entire year. All right, relax. All right. I realize you mean not in general. I apologize. Not ratings on points. Uh, just in general, just my thoughts on Eli Manning. I'd say he's a top 10 quarterback. He hasn't been spectacular. Okay, but yeah, I mean he's a top 10, but he's not a top 5. Aaron Rodgers is better. Drew Brees is better. Tom Brady's better. Uh, in terms of certainly not leading your team, but in terms of being a quarterback, Cam Newton's been better. Stafford's been better. But Eli Manning's definitely in the top 10, and he's had a great fantasy year. My top 10 for quarterbacks this year. Um, I'd probably say Aaron Rodgers has been the best. Uh, Probably put Brady behind him, even though he had a couple of tough weeks. I'd still put Brady behind him. Uh, Breeze after that, then probably Cam Newton. Um, then Stafford and Eli Manning are probably on even level for me right now. Matt Ryan's making a hell of a push to be in the top 5 conversation. He's at least in the top 10 conversation, but until he can start throwing to Roddy White more consistently and Tony Gonzalez more consistently, then he's not going to be in that conversation. But Eli Manning's been having a great year. Okay, well, yes, Cam Newton has 2 wins, but I'm saying as a quarterback, if Cam Newton had a better team, keep in mind it's surprising that Cam Newton has 2 wins, but he's had a very good rookie year so far. I'm nothing but impressed with how he's done so far. Because I mean, I'm not going to say that Tony Romo's a better quarterback than Cam Newton when just because Tony Romo's team has more points. The Panthers aren't a very good team. They have Cam Newton and Steve Smith, who's an aging wide receiver that just happened to be having a comeback year because of Cam Newton. And then you have D'Angelo Williams and Jonathan Stewart, who have both been unimpressive as of late. Um, but anyway, so that was my quarterbacks this week. Tony Romo. I hate Tim Tebow too. There's so many reasons that I hate Tim Tebow. One of which, obviously, being just throwing religion in your face constantly. Um, and it's nonstop with him. It's okay. Oh, Tim, you had a really good game. You rushed for 2 touchdowns. You threw for another one. I mean, you only threw 2 passes, but one of them was a touchdown pass. What do you think? What do you think about your game this week? Oh, well, first of all, I'd just like to thank our Lord Jesus Christ and Savior, because if it wasn't for him, none of us would be here, and I love him more than anything, even my big-titted girlfriend that I've had sex with my entire life. Um, White Christian baby Jesus lover. That's why they love him. You know what? I completely agree with you. It's the absolute morons of society that love Tim Tebow, and it's the douchebags of society too. Tebow is so widely hated that the people who love to be hated also love Tim Tebow. So you have the moron teabaggers that like him because he's a white Christian baby Jesus lover, but then you have the assholes in society. Um, I'm trying to think of somebody on a national level that's kind of an asshole that likes him. I can only think of people around here. Let's see. Herman Cain has resigned. Well, he's temporarily suspended his his campaign towards being president. But you knew after all the allegations came out of him boning around with his employees that was going to happen eventually. And frankly, we've had a black president for 2 years. It's not going to happen any longer, or 3 years now, I guess. But realistically, Obama's either going to win, or Mitt Romney or Newt Gingrich is going to win. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're not here to talk about that. Clinton was a black president, but only because he earned it. Okay, he wasn't just born black like Barack Obama. Clinton had to earn it. Okay, just to keep things relatively normal without Sal here, let's go to the top 10 running backs for this week. How I think it's going to go down. I think we're going to have Matt Forte, Ray Rice, Chris Johnson. He's going to be playing against Buffalo, 28th against the run. And I think Chris Johnson's going to keep this breakout alive because I think he realized that he can't just skate by and expect it to be taken seriously, and everybody's been doubting him the entire season, so he had a couple good weeks, and I think he's going to keep it going. Beanie Wells had a great week last week. He was actually number one out of running backs last week. Who number two is actually Roy Halou, which don't really predict that again. After that, I go with Reggie Bush, then DeMarco Murray, Frank Gore, Arian Foster, LeGarrette Blount, and then Ben Jarvis Green Ellis, who, as I predicted, had a top 10 week last week. He had 2 touchdowns. Granted, I think he only ran for about maybe 25 to 40 yards. I don't fully remember what it is, but he did have 2 rushing touchdowns. And I had a feeling that was going to happen with Ben Jarvis Green Ellis, and I think that there's a chance just with this week with the Patriots playing Indianapolis. I think that just about everybody on the Patriots is going to have a good fantasy week. Brady the most. Ben Jarvis Green Ellis will have a good week, and then wide receiver wise, I actually don't think that it's going to be Wes Welker this year for this week for the Patriots. I think that Chad Ochocinco is going to get a lot of looks against this weak Indianapolis secondary. I think Deion Branch is going to get a lot of looks. Deion Branch has played against the Indianapolis Colts with the Patriots many times, and I think that he has a good rapport with Brady now. And I think they're not necessarily giving Welker the week off, but he'll get 5 or 6 catches, 7 targets. But I think that Brady's going to be looking at Branch quite a bit, and we're going to stick with that. So again, this is the Sports Show with Sal and Josh. I realize everybody is looking around, realizing the Sports Show with Sal and Josh. I don't see a Sal, but I do see a Josh. Sal decided that he was going to stay out until 3 in the morning and drink far too much last night. So that's what happened with that. And rather than having the hangover cure, which is Dr. McGillicuddy's original formula imported, world famous since 1891, the menthol mint schnapps. It's quite delicious, and it's a wonderful hangover cure. Now, I'm not hungover, but since I'm here by myself, I figure I might as well drink by myself while we're at it, right? No reason not to. Tim Tebow. That's what happens when you lose. I don't necessarily know what that means, Tim Tebow 69, but I don't really care either, so whoop-de-doo. Drinkers never win like me. Oh, you're just pretending to be Tim Tebow. That's perfectly fine. Ooh, that's a real good way to clean the sinuses. So again, as everybody sees, there's a chat room over there, so you can write in there. If you don't have a screen name yet, you can sign in up in that corner over there. It's free and easy to sign up, and I recommend everybody do it. Also, tweet about us or like us on Facebook, tweet about us, and then follow us down there. It's way down there. You can't tell how far down it is, but it's down over there. Okay. So just follow us, and that'd be spectacular. You can also follow us on Twitter at SJ Sports Show. That's Sports Show on Twitter. And then you can also check some of our past broadcasts as well as the intro video, which most of you missed, on YouTube at youtube.com/user/Sal and Josh Sports. And again, we're live every Wednesday and every Saturday. Wednesdays at 6:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Saturdays at 2:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as we are right now. Thank you, amigo. And so let's get into the wide receivers here. Top 10 for this week as I see them happening. Yes, this is live. Because you're going to see something coming up real quick, Lorenzo, where 24 hours a day, the sports show with Sal and Josh is going to be broadcasting, and yet it's still only going to be live Wednesdays at 6:15 and Saturdays at 2:15, but there will be videos of the old broadcast constantly running because, I'm obsessed with people loving me. So, top 10 wide receivers for this week as I see them happening. Calvin Johnson will be number 1. Brandon Marshall after that. Greg Jennings, Hakeem Nicks will beat out Victor Cruz this week. Roddy White, Marquise Colston, Wes Welker, then Victor Cruz, Larry Fitzgerald, and finally the aging Carolina Panthers, Steve Smith. I think Marquise Colston is actually going to have a pretty big week this week. As Drew Brees does, he normally spreads the ball around, and last week was Lance Moore's turn, and it seems like Marquise Colston hasn't had that big day for a couple weeks now. So you really think that this week is going to be when Brees and Colston kind of meet together and do it. No, Eric Decker is not going to have a big week. This is going to be another rushing week, and yes, maybe Eric Decker will get his 1 touchdown pass that he gets every week. But Tim Tebow does not throw enough for me to put Eric Decker in the top 10 wide receivers for this week. Because frankly, 2 to 5 passes a game does not bode well for any wide receiver on your team. Let's go into the last category here. I did not do defense, special teams, or kickers because, frankly, if you can't find a good defense or a good kicker, your life sucks anyway, so you don't need me to tell you what to do. So top 10 tight ends, I actually think Aaron Hernandez is going to be the top tight end this week. Rob Gronkowski is the big name on the Patriots, but I think, as I said earlier, I think Brady's going to spread the ball around more to receivers that he doesn't normally go to, where Gronk and Wes Welker are normally who he throws to on a daily basis. I think with this being a very weak Indianapolis Colts team, 0-11, and they're looking down the barrel of 0-16. They have Dan Orlovsky as their quarterback this week, who is probably going to have the distinct recognition of being the only quarterback to be the quarterback of two 0-16 teams, and that's most certainly going to happen. So that'll be Aaron Hernandez. Jimmy Graham will be after that, the tight end for the New Orleans Saints. He had a great week last week. He was the number one, as was predicted by us, and he's been the best tight end all year. Between him and Gronk, you really can't go wrong. Gronk's going to be number 3 for me this week. Even with Tom Brady spreading the ball around, Gronk will still get his red zone look, so you got to like that. Brandon Pettigrew will be number 4. Jason Witten at number 5. Kellen Winslow at number 6. After that, Antonio Gates and Tony Gonzalez, the two old guys. Jermichael Finley, and then Vernon Davis, who is cracked by top 10, but that's just because I'm not really feeling a lot of tight ends this week. But Vernon Davis is playing against the number 1 defense against the tight end in St. Louis. So watch out for that matchup if you have Vernon Davis or one of these other guys. Because I know a lot of guys that actually have Jimmy Graham and Vernon Davis, as Jimmy Graham wasn't projected to be as high as he ended up being. I'd go with somebody else over Vernon Davis, even though I have him in the top 10. But if you have one of those first 9, I'd definitely go with him over Vernon Davis this week. So that goes for my projections for this week. Let's look at how I did last week. I didn't do very well. Well, Breeze and Brady were both in the top 3 for last week, and they were also in my top 3. But Cam Newton, he had a top 10 week, not a top 3 week. Matt Ryan, I had that. Tim Tebow did not have a good week, 15 points out of your quarterback. The way that I always think with Tim Tebow is that he's a running back who's going to run for 70 to 80 yards, but there's also a chance he could throw for 100 yards too. So you can't really always know exactly what's going to be happening with Tim Tebow. He's not a bad start. I know a lot of people are either in their first week of the playoffs or the last week of the regular season in their fantasy football leagues right now. But if you have Tim Tebow, you should be feeling all right. Although if you have Cam Newton, you should be feeling better. So that's how I'll put it this week. Let's see. I thought Rex Grossman might have another game in a row, but he didn't. Instead, Caleb Haney was the guy who kind of came out of nowhere and had a good week. Vince Young also had a pretty good week last week. He was top 5 in fantasy. A lot of people don't have him. But you know what? Yesterday he did or Thursday he did terrible. So he's not a guy that's going to be consistent enough that you can pick up for this playoff run and hope that you're going to get anything out of him. And neither is Caleb Haney really. You're not going to get top 10 quarterback production out of him at any time. And realistically, if you still don't have your quarterback figured out, you're probably not going to be in the playoffs either way. Last week, let's see, and in the top running backs, Roy Halou, Cedric Benson, Marshawn Lynch. Marshawn Lynch keeps on going off. I mean, he's going through the best stretch of his career, and you saw it again on Thursday night. He just keeps on doing what he's doing, and you got to be impressed by that. Pierre Thomas had a pretty good week. Chris Johnson, another breakout week, and as I said, Ben Jarvis-Greenellis, who had a good week last week, and Michael Bush, who Darren McFadden is out again this week, so Michael Bush is a good start. And even when Darren McFadden comes back, I don't think that he's going to be at 100% when it happens. So Michael Bush is going to be a good start all the way through the playoffs. Lynch can keep it up, especially if they keep giving him the Skittles. I don't know if you heard about this. When Marshawn Lynch was a younger kid, every time he'd score a touchdown, his mother would give him Skittles. And to this day, when he scores a touchdown, somebody gives him Skittles. And so now Marshawn Lynch is going to be getting a sponsorship from Skittles, which seems a bit interesting to me. I mean, it seems like if it was easy enough. I mean, did Buffalo just not realize? Oh, okay, well we have Marshawn Lynch. He'll score touchdowns if we just have Skittles waiting for him on the sidelines. With so many Saints running backs, who should you start? Well, Mark Ingram had a pretty convincing week. But Pierre Tom. I mean, they spread the ball around so much, and so between Pierre Thomas is good out of the backfield, so he's going to keep on getting those passes. I think Mark Ingram is the best running back that they have, though. But man, if you have all of them, I'd personally go with Pierre Thomas. But I hate like I hate having Patriots players on my team. I hate having Saints players on my teams, aside from Drew Brees or Tom Brady, because there are so many good wide receivers and so many good running back options. Um, for future years, Mark Ingram's going to be the man. Um, but for now, when they still have so many good running backs, Pierre Thomas is the guy to go with, and I'd stick with that for this week. But if you have another option, I'd go with that instead. Because none of them are making my top 10 for this week in terms of running backs. Let's see, wide receivers wise, again, just completely wrong. I mean, Laurent Robinson had another spectacular week, and it seems like he's a legit player, and he's just going to keep on having good weeks. Victor Cruz had a great week. I actually expect him to fall down a little bit this week. And Reggie Wayne had his best week of the year. Wide receivers are very difficult to choose. So if you have one of the elite top guys, Calvin Johnson, Brandon Marshall, Greg Jennings, Roddy White, Larry Fitzgerald, those are always smart starts. But you kind of got to see who's playing who. You constantly see these teams playing against. I'm going to go with the Patriots because I'm from Boston and a Patriots fan. But you constantly see these guys going up against the Patriots, who were for a while the 32nd ranked defense against the pass. But the yards weren't going to the number one wide receiver; they were always going to the number 2 or the number 3. So you really couldn't, be like, oh well, it's the worst pass defense. That's who we'll go with, because it just doesn't work that way. Let's see, tight ends. Okay, we were right about Jimmy Graham. Dustin Keller had a great week. Antonio Gates had a great week. Fred Davis, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so that covers all the fantasy stuff for this week. That took up a good, 20 minutes. Who gives a shit? Now let's get into the bets that we made last week. I don't have Sal's bets in front of me. But then again, I don't really care. So my 5 bets from last week, I lost on assuming that the Rams were going to beat Arizona. Arizona ended up not smoking them, but certainly not making it a very exciting game. The Texans did beat the Jaguars. They beat them by 7 points. The spread was 6.5. The Panthers also beat the Colts. The spread on that was -3, which was pretty surprising because even though the Panthers only have 2 or 3 wins, they're a far better team than the Indianapolis Colts. The Falcons beat the Vikings by 10 points. Spread was 9.5, so we got lucky with that one. And the Raiders beat the Bears, which I was surprised about. I mean, even though the Bears didn't have Jay Cutler, it seemed like they were always winning despite Jay Cutler, anyways. But we were wrong about that, and the Raiders won by 4, or they won by 5, and the spread was 3.5. So we were pretty fucked up with that. Okay, so that's that. So the bets for this week, as I see them, the Raiders at a +3 against the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins are highly overrated, especially after the past few weeks. Yeah, Matt Moore had a couple good games, but you're not going to rely on Matt Moore and Reggie Bush, because frankly, if you are, you're going to get screwed. And then Carson Palmer and Michael Bush are showing that they're a pretty good tandem over there in Oakland, and I think Oakland will not only cover, I think they'll win, but take the cover because that's the easiest thing to do. I have Ravens -6.5 against the Browns. The Ravens have not shown up playing against weak teams, but I think now at the end of the season is rolling around, I think they're starting to realize that, and hopefully they'll correct it and play pretty strong against this Browns team. And between Ray Rice, Anquan Bolden, and Lee Evans coming back now, I think the Ravens will have a good game against the Browns and expect them to cover. The Bengals at +6.5 against the Steelers. The Steelers are a better team, but I would be surprised if they won by a touchdown. I expect the Steelers to win by a field goal or maybe even 2 field goals. But that covers you on a +6.5, so I'd take the Bengals in that game. And then I have the Falcons -3 against the Texans. Now the Texans are a good team, and they won last week even with T.J. Yates and Matt Leinart as their quarterback. But you really can't expect that again. The Falcons are a very good team, so I expect them to win by at least a touchdown against the Texans. And the Texans are going to make the playoffs, but their hope to do anything once they get there. That's awful. Lions versus Saints. Take the Saints. The Lions are falling apart, and they don't have their best defensive player in Ndamukong Suh. So I'd definitely take the Saints in that game. And then my final pick, Colts plus 20.5 against the Patriots. It's Saints 8.5. Still take the Saints. The Saints are gonna run up the score. The Saints are gonna win. Don't worry. But I'm gonna take the Colts covering this 20.5. It seems almost like a reverse lock here. It's the Patriots are gonna win. They're gonna win big, but they're not gonna win by. I don't think they're gonna win by 3 touchdowns. I think it's gonna be maybe a 28-10 type of game, or a 35-15 or something, which would be 20 still. But 20.5, it's too big for me. Take the Colts. That's my thought. Okay, so those are my 5 bets for the week. I was 3 for 5 last week, 3 for 5 the week before that, and 2 for 5 the week before that. So if you were betting along with me, you'd be making some money. So just try keep on doing that. A couple things that I want to talk about as we get into the final 15 minutes of the show here. As I said, in Ndamukong Suh, he is suspended. He had a hearing yesterday at 1 p.m. with the league, and the suspension was held up as everybody expected. I mean, the appeal process was kind of just a formality at that point, but it was the acts were, needless to say, egregious. I mean, he was only suspended, as it said in the report, that it was suspended for the foot stomp, but he should have been suspended for bashing the head in as much as for the foot stomp. Also big this week, Donovan McNabb was released by the Vikings, and he was not picked up on waivers, so Donovan McNabb is a free agent right now. And it's funny because you see all these teams with young quarterbacks, quarterbacks with no experience at all. You wonder, a team like Indianapolis, why don't you pick up Donovan McNabb for the last 4 weeks? And you know why they're not going to? Because they're tanking the rest of the year. That's why they're putting in Dan Orlovsky. They're going to hope to get the number 1 pick. Now, a lot of people are saying, I want to get into this, a lot of people are saying that they're going to get the number 1 pick and they're going to pick Andrew Luck, and that's going to be the end of the Peyton Manning era in Indianapolis. And frankly, Peyton Manning, yes, he's 36 years old, probably only got 3 or 4 years left in him. But the Indianapolis Colts are not going to be the ones to give up on Peyton Manning. Bill Polian and Jim Caldwell are not smart enough to do that. They're not bold enough to do that. Peyton Manning will be the quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts until he retires. He will come back next year. Peyton Manning is going to begin throwing soon. The doctor said that his neck is healed to the point where he can start doing more activities. And Andrew Luck, maybe the Colts will draft Andrew Luck, but they're gonna do a Joe Montana, Steve Young, or a Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers type thing, where Andrew Luck will sit and watch for 3 years before he gets in there and starts being the quarterback of the future. So Indianapolis fans have no reason to worry. Peyton Manning is going to be your quarterback for the next 3 to 4 years, I would imagine. I touched on the Marshawn Lynch Skittles situation. It seems a bit childish to me, realistically. I mean, you hate to say that it's like this big dumb guy. Okay, if I get Skittles, I'll score a touchdown if you give me Skittles. Like, it's a bit ridiculous, really. But you know what? If he's going to keep producing fantasy-wise like he is, and Pete Carroll will have a bucket full of Skittles ready for him every time. And now Marshawn Lynch is going to make some money off of these Skittles, so good for his mom for giving him a sugar high whenever he scored a touchdown. Some of the guys that are out this week, Adrian Peterson is going to be out again. Miles Austin is out again this week. So for those Laurent Robinson owners who were hoping, or who were worried that Miles Austin would be coming back, do not fret, he's not going to be coming back. Darren McFadden out again. Denarius Moore also out, and Jacoby Ford also out. So the Raiders do have a lot of injuries going on for them right now, but I still expect them to beat the Dolphins. Now, realistically, that covers all the news that I want to have. So if you guys have any questions, please ask. If you guys want to have any sort of discussion, let me know, and I'll answer them to the best of my ability. A couple things in other sports that we can touch on while these questions are coming in. Bruce Boudreau, as he was fired from the Washington Capitals, he was hired 72 hours later by the Anaheim Ducks. No longer the Mighty Ducks because they're not owned by Disney anymore, and that's been for quite a few years. And you'd be surprised how difficult it is to find a Mighty Ducks jersey. They only make them illegally in China these days, or you have to get a used one on eBay. You'd think that somebody, Disney, anybody, would be selling Mighty Ducks jerseys. Like, how awesome would that be for me to be walking around with a Charlie Conway jersey on or a Gordon Bombay, USA Ducks jersey on? I can only wish. So again, if you guys have any questions, please type them in the chat over there, or else I'm going to keep on rambling on for the next 14 minutes about the Mighty Ducks. But I think this is actually a really good move for the Anaheim Ducks to hire Bruce Boudreau. He's a really good coach. Obviously, he led he led the Washington Capitals to 4 straight division wins. And granted, he lost it for him in the playoffs. That was Claude Julien's same. That was the same thing Claude Julien constantly did. That's why he was fired by the Devils when they made it to the playoffs. So the Devils get to the playoffs, fire Claude Julien, bring in whoever the hell their coach is now. But you know what? If you give them the right team, which I'm not saying the Anaheim Ducks is the right team, they're not a good team this year. Yes, they have Corey Perry and Bobby Ryan, but they're not a good enough team to. Bruce Boudreau is not leading his team to another division victory here. But give him a couple of years in Anaheim, and I think Anaheim could be a very good team again. Even though Bobby Ryan is still on the trading block for this year. There were originally some talks that Bobby Ryan would be traded to the Bruins for David Krejci and possibly Dougie Hamilton, who was our first-round pick that we got from Toronto for Phil Kessel, along with Tyler Seguin. But now, with David Krejci being signed to the 3-year extension, it really looks like that's probably not a possibility, as the money isn't really that affordable for Anaheim anymore, as it's 3 years, $5.25 million for David Krejci. So he's going to be on your Boston Bruins for the next 3 years, along with Patrice Bergeron, Zdeno Chara, Tyler Seguin, Brad Marchand, and Rich Peverley, who have all been signed through 2014, I believe. So and Lucic and Horton will be around next year. So look for the signings of Chris Kelly maybe, and then our entire fourth line. That's going to be up for grabs with Greg Campbell, Sean Thornton, and Danny Paille. Sean Thornton's kind of a Boston guy, but who really knows what he'll be able to do. So again, if you guys have any questions, that would be great. You can ask them up here, and if you're just watching along and you don't have a screen name yet, please sign up way up over there in the corner. It's free and easy to sign up, and then you can post all the questions that you want. You can make fun of me all you want. Again, this is the Sports Show with Sal and Josh, and I am Josh, and as we can tell, there is no Sal, as he drank quite a bit too much last night, and he woke up puking this morning. So there will be no Sal on this very show, but we are live every Saturday at 2:15, whether hungover or not. One of us will be here, and then we're live every Wednesday at 6:15. You can like us on Facebook up here, and you can tweet about us right here, and you can follow us right down there. And again, if you're just watching on and you don't have a screen name yet, please sign up in the upper left-hand corner or upper right-hand corner, and you can sign up. It's free and easy, and then you can follow us down there, which always looks good for us. You can also follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/SJSportsShow. That's sports show. And you can also view our past broadcasts and our intro video on YouTube at youtube.com/user/SalAndJoshSports. Now we're hoping for, in a couple, John 3:16 says, "I just kicked your ass." Oh, sorry, that's Awesome 3:16 that said, "I just kicked your ass." So let's go over some of the stuff that I was talking about last week. Let's see, what did we talk about? The NBA lockout that is coming to an end. The preseason schedules are going to be starting soon. December 9th is when full practices start. There's been a lot of talk about Rajon Rondo and Chris Paul. And Chris Paul in general, who I think has reserved himself to the fact that he knows he's not going to end up on the Knicks. The Knicks don't have enough money. They don't have the right trading chips to bring Chris Paul onto the team with Amari Stoudemire and Carmelo Anthony. And even if so, I feel if I were Chris Paul, despite the glamour and glitz of the Madison Square Garden, You want to go to a place where you can win, and frankly, Carmelo Anthony isn't a winner. Amari Stoudemire, sure, he's won. Chris Paul is better than Rondo. I will concede to that in a heartbeat. But that's not me saying anything bad about Rondo. Let me make that incredibly clear. Because Rajon Rondo is it may be the best passer in the NBA, but he's certainly not the best point guard. He can't score. He can't be overly aggressive going to the basket because he doesn't have any sort of free throw shot. But he does have incredible court vision, and he can make passes, and he can take over games. And you've seen it. You saw it in the playoffs in 2008 or in 2009 rather, where he just, I mean, there was a term coined in the Boston area that was called rondoing, and Rondo would rondo people all the time. You know, he has these types of moves that he can see the court so well, and he makes these absurd passes, and he can break ankles really well. Now, again, that's not saying that I wouldn't trade him for Chris Paul. Long term, Derrick Rose, without a doubt. Derrick Rose is a very, very special player, MVP last year. Derrick Rose is the guy that you want on your team. That's a guy that you can build a franchise around, as the Bulls have been doing. The Bulls are Derrick Rose's team now, and they'll continue to be. Better shooter, still Derrick Rose. Rajon Rondo is an awful shooter. The only time Rondo's good offensively in terms of scoring points is when he's aggressive. But if he's over aggressive, he'll get to the free throw line and miss a couple times, and then he'll stop being aggressive with it. So if you want a guy on your team, you want Derrick Rose out of those two. And then again, this is saying nothing bad about Rajon Rondo. I'm glad that he's on the Celtics. But when you compare him to guys like Chris Paul and Derrick Rose, it's obviously you're going to pick one of those guys. It's to bring it back to hockey, which is my sport of choice. It's like when you have Patrice Bergeron on your team. He's a spectacular player, great two-way forward. But if you said, okay, would you rather have him or Sidney Crosby on the team? Obviously, you choose Sidney Crosby. He's the best player in the NHL. But I'm very happy to have Patrice Bergeron, my favorite player on the Bruins, and I'm very happy to have Rajon Rondo as I might almost say he's my favorite player on the Celtics. Next to Paul Pierce, who's been a lifetime Celtic. But one thing I wanted to talk about, I remember on Wednesday that I wanted to bring it up about this potential trade. It's tough losing Rondo because he's a Celtic. That's just what he is. He stopped wearing the headband when he realized that it was Jerry West on the logo, and Jerry West was a Celtic. So Rondo started putting the headband upside down. The NBA said, you're not allowed to do that. Doesn't form well with our conformity. And so he said, well, fuck it, I'm not going to wear it at all. And, I mean, talk about a Celtic-type move to not wear the logo because Jerry West is on there. And, I mean, you think it's some sort of big deal, which everybody wears the logo. I don't think that really holds any merit. I mean, it is what it is. But you'd hate to lose a guy like Rajon Rondo that, David Stern is a complete fag. David Stern, probably the worst commissioner in sports right now. Bud Selig, he's. I think a lot of people are going to be much bigger fans of Bud Selig coming up because of the added wild card. They're expanding instant replay to include what's foul and what's fair. And also, I think moving the Houston Astros over to the Eastern or to the what can't I think of it? The American League. I think Bud Selig is going to gain a couple fans from that. Gary Bettman's done a hell of a lot for hockey since the 2004 lockout. And I think a lot of people realize that he's tried. Granted, he still got booed up in Vancouver, but that's because a lot of Canadians don't like Gary Bettman. And then, what's the football guy? Can't remember his name, but David Stern, yes, complete asshole. He doesn't realize that the refs are corrupt, even though he's had Roger Goodell is the commissioner for football, and I think that even though there was a potential lockout, I think everybody's forgotten about that, and it's right. It's Goodel. I don't think it's Godel. Um, but people have long forgotten about the potential lockout in football, and I think Roger Goodell has fans again. David Stern is quickly losing all of his fans, especially now that they lost 16 games over the season. So that is that. Let's see, we have another 4 minutes to fill here. So guys, if you have any questions, please post it, right over here. Tim Tebow 69 has been doing a lot of the talking, as well as my great friend Lorenzo. I guess we could do one more shot of Dr. McGillicuddy's while we're waiting. Again, this show is brought to you by Dr. McGillicuddy's. It is the greatest hangover cure, as well as a really good cure for colds, because it really helps your sinuses there. Intense menthol mint schnapps, authentic when signed. As you can see, it was signed by A.P. McGillicuddy. Maybe you can't see it. Either way, it's only 24% alcohol by volume, but granted, it tastes like a peppermint patty. And if you put some of that whipped lightning, that alcoholic whipped cream on top of it, get some of that chocolate shit, it really tastes like a peppermint patty. And, and that's a good way to get the girls drunk before you sleep with them. Because I know most of you guys, if you're going to be sleeping with a girl, you better be getting her drunk. Because that's the only way it's going to happen. Oh, it feels good going down. Merry Christmas to you too, Tim Tebow. That's right, this is our first show of December. We started the first week of November. We've had quite a few successful shows, and we've certainly enjoyed doing it. During this holiday time, I'm sure that the one day we may not have a show is on Christmas Eve. 2:15 on Christmas Eve is probably going to be a problem. But other than that, you can really expect to see us every Wednesday and Saturday throughout this holiday season, right up until the weekend of I believe the Fridays the 13th, 14th, 15th. That weekend we will be having a special show from Sunapee, New Hampshire, where we'll be broadcasting live from up there, as we have our yearly friend trip up to a house in the mountains up there. But hopefully, and then also another exciting thing that I guess I'm going to bounce off Tim Tebow 69 and Lorenzo here is that we have an idea to do a show for charity for either the MS Foundation or for the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. We're going to broadcast the week before the Super Bowl. We're going to start our normal Saturday broadcast at 2:15 p.m. We're going to broadcast for a full 24 hours right up until Sunday at 2:15 p.m. And again, that is going to be 100% for charity, and hopefully it'll get us some viewers as well. If you guys think that's a good idea, that'd be great. If you guys also want to vote on the Sucks to Be You right now Person of the Week down there's Ndamukong Suh with obviously his 2-game suspension. There's Matt Leinart, who finally had a chance to quarterback a good winning team, and then he breaks his collarbone, and that sucks. There's also Bruce Boudreau, who was fired, which it no longer sucks to be him because he is hired now. And Curtis Painter, who lost his starting job after quarterbacking an 0-11 team, even though Kerry Collins had a couple weeks to do something with it. And then I think there's somebody else down there, but who really gives a shit. So, ladies and gentlemen, that has been our show for Saturday. Again, this is the sports show with Sal and Josh. I am Josh. Sal is conspicuously absent due to a terrible hangover, as we hear. Again, we're brought to you by Dr. McGillicuddy's Menthol Mint Schnapps. And hopefully we'll see you all on Wednesday when we broadcast live at 6:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So now we'll go to our outro video. Guys, I hope everybody had a great, great day, and I hope that you have a great, great week. And enjoy football tomorrow, everybody, and enjoy December. The holidays are here, everybody. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen. That was fun, even though I was all by myself the whole time. You guys did great. Love y'all.